welcome to another edition of the Ninten-Dadcast, coming right at you live from the RVA. Good to be back, feeling better now. What a week last week was. I mean, good Lord, it started like last Sunday. Just my muscles and everything felt weak and everything like that. And then Monday, I was not feeling well either. I thought maybe I had a cold of some kind. And then, man, Tuesday, this stomach virus just kicked my butt. Like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, thought I was good on Friday. Like Friday, I was feeling good. And so I grilled burgers, and I had this beautiful bacon, mushroom, blue cheese melt burger that I made for myself. And that was a mistake because the stomach problems came back Friday. And, it just kicked my butt. And then Saturday, I wasn't feeling great. Nope, Saturday. Yeah, for the first half of Saturday, I was still down and out, and I was just like, you've got to be kidding me, man. And I was like, I hadn't been, not since I got COVID back in 2022, had I, like, been sick for that long of a period of time, and it was terrible. It was just, I just felt uncomfortable the entire time. Like, the first few days, I felt sick, like, my muscles, everything was weak, and then, those like 3 days I was just uncomfortable the entire time. Like I didn't necessarily feel sick, I just felt so uncomfortable. And then the kicker, so I was feeling good Sunday, but my youngest Bowie, I think he caught a minor cold from preschool, and so it's Monday today that I'm recording this, so like Sunday and Monday I had a bit of a scratchy throat. You can still kind of hear the scratchy throat. I'm feeling fine though, but I was just like, of course I get over this weird stomach virus that I had, and immediately I catch a cold from my toddler. So, but no, I think we're good now. I mean, my hair is just looking just terrible. I don't like it. I need it long again. I hate it's now at this in between because I'm growing it back out because I don't like having short hair. It's at this in between. I hate it. I hate it so much. But so we got a fun show to go ahead with. We're gonna talk the Nintendo playtest. No, sadly I didn't get into it. What I think would make for a good Halo game, and we're gonna kind of talk what I see as being like the problem with AAA gaming these days. So. Yeah, let's get into all that. Yeah, so as I alluded to in the opening, let's first talk about the Nintendo playtest. I did not get in. That went like that. It's so funny. It was like open from October 10th to the 15th or whatever the arbitrary days were, and or until all the spots fill up. And I was like, well, unless there's like a million spots, it's not going to that 5 days. I knew that right off the bat. That wasn't going to happen. And I was right there at 11 a.m. Eastern time when it went live. I click enter, and I got a, sorry, it's already filled message. I was like, damn. So, no, I didn't get in, but I've got a couple theories about what it is. So, someone pointed out on Twitter that the swear pattern used in the background of the announcements is very reminiscent of the GameCube loading screen. So maybe they're bringing GameCube games to the expansion, because it was for expansion members only. So you have to have a Nintendo Switch Online expansion account. So if you don't have that, you didn't qualify to get in anyways. So that was kind of a clue, like something kind of cool. But then I started thinking, and if this like leaks before I get to doing this video, I'm going to be pissed. Because I've been thinking lately about Nintendo's old Satellaview that they used to do with the SNES. And I think the Nintendo Switch Online, especially the expansion, would be a great way to kind of bring that back. Or at least bring a form of it back. Not necessarily call it Satellaview, but do something very similar to that with Nintendo Switch Online that you can do. You know, adding temporary content to games, not like DLC that you keep, but timed events, like maybe like building contests in not Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, or, you know, maybe like a timed exclusive level that you can play every week in games like you could do with the Satellaview back when it was on the SNES in Japan only, obviously. So I'm sure there's some people, like some Americans who haven't heard us tell, who's like, wait a second, there was a satellite-based online DLC thing for the Super Nintendo. Why am I just hearing about that? Well, because you didn't live in Japan. That's why you're just hearing about that. So I'm going to go into that more detail in a video I'm going to do later. But yeah, so I was just thinking like maybe that's what this is, some sort of Satellaview kind of thing. But then there was also the hack, the leaks from Pokemon Company, which I'm not going to go into too much detail about those. Mostly because I don't want to deal with any kind of hacker kind of bullshit. It's really wrong, especially the ones that hack things for ransom and things like that. It's just kind of like, all I can think with like hackers, there's so many good things you could do with your ability. Just because like a lot of the things hackers do, like, yes, I'm not trying to stick up for like $1 billion corporation or anything like that, but there are people who work for those $1 billion corporations and their social security and a lot of their stuff gets stolen in those hacks and leaks. I mean, that can set people on edge. I mean, yeah, like these companies, they'll just be like, oh yeah, whatever, kind of thing like that. But yeah, it's never a good thing. So I don't really delve into spreading too much of leaks out of there. But one leak that did come out of there, maybe that's what this playtest is for, and others I'm going to talk about, is a possible like Pokemon MMO, which would be kind of cool. I haven't really played a Pokemon game since the second generation of Pokemon back on the Game Boy, way back when. I do have on my Switch I almost said Hey You Pikachu, but that is that N64 game there at the end. I couldn't remember where it was. But yeah, the Pikachu, Let's Go Pikachu. I do have that for my Switch. I got about halfway through it. It's just a remake of the first Pokemon game. But yeah, I haven't really played one in a long time. I've tried intermediately, but it's just too much. It's kind of, for me, Pokemon has always been a very simple RPG, and it was more fun when I was younger. But as I've gotten older, I kind of like more complex stories and things like that. And maybe the new ones are like that, but I haven't wanted to dive into a Pokemon game. I'd rather catch up on some of the Square Enix or Squaresoft and Enix and Atlas RPGs that I missed in my youth, because you only can play so many games. So I've kind of started playing those like remasters or re-releases on the Switch, PlayStation, Xboxes, and such. But a Pokemon MMO, depending on how they did it, especially play for my Switch, I can play it portably just anywhere in the house. I could get down for that. I could really actually get down for a Pokemon MMO. So maybe that's what that is. But I really think I think it's one of two things. Really, I think it's some sort of Satellaview type service for games, like not really DLC, but timed exclusive or timed events for certain Nintendo games, or GameCube. We're finally going to get GameCube games on the Switch, which of course we get GameCube games on the Switch after I have already pre-ordered the flippy drive for my GameCube to play backed up games and things like that, which of course they brought the N64 games to the Switch after I had amassed like probably half that collection, probably about half of what I have right now I had, and then they were like, oh, we're coming to the Switch. So that would just be it. I've got the flippy drive on pre-order, and then they're like, oh, no, just kidding. We are bringing GameCube games to the Switch. So either way, that'd be cool. I mean, I don't know how. Obviously, they're not going to bring every GameCube game if that happens to the Switch. So I mean, a lot of the games that I'll have on my GameCube won't be there, so I'll still play those. But as far as like streaming games, especially if it's a game I was going to stream anyways, I would probably do it from my Switch just for the better picture quality and everything for the stream. So I mean, that would still be cool. Also, a lot of people are like, oh, they have to sign NDAs. They don't have to sign NDAs. Nintendo is just asking people not to share the information out there. But there's 10,000 people or so in the playtest. It's going to get shared. Someone is going to put it on Twitter, make a YouTube video, stream it on Twitch, Kick, YouTube, X, whatever. So it will get out there. I'm interested to see what it is. I'm excited for it. That's why I really want to be in the playtest, because I wanted to see what this was. And so hopefully we get some news on it. Hopefully it's something really cool. It's with all this anticipation, much like the Alarmo, it would be so terrible if we all get excited about this and then it's just, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. We're all excited about it and something lame like Alarmo. So, I mean, we will definitely have to wait and see what is coming our way with that. So, boom, there's the Nintendo news out of the way. And let's talk about what I think could make Halo great again. And my ideas of what could make Halo great again depend on several things. The first and foremost thing is who is still at Bungie who worked on the Halo games. Because that's what I was thinking with all the uproar of the chief of staff, not even the head of formerly 343 Studios, now Halo Studios, with all the uproar about her pride flag on her LinkedIn account, which again, much to do about nothing. I mean, let her make a terrible game or be a part of a terrible game. She's not making the game. And as a chief of staff, probably not making too many decisions about the game when you think about it. So I was thinking about that. I was like, and I was also thinking like, okay, they switched to the Unreal 3 engine because they've been using like this old engine that probably only people from Bungie know how to manipulate. And so that got me things like, what would make a better Halo game? Like, I don't think Halo necessarily needs to be saved because, in all honesty, I enjoyed Halo Infinite. I enjoyed the story mode. I had a lot of fun playing multiplayer for a while, but I don't stick with multiplayer games like that online for that long. I don't have all the time in the world, so I'll start playing it when it's new. I'll play it for a few months with buddies, and then we move on to a different game. I would love for a game to really capture our attentions to stay longer, but that is what it is. And I say too much. I'm trying to break that, but I'm never going to break that, probably not when doing this, because I'm thinking and fill space because I talk all the time. But so I was just thinking like, what? And I never thought, like I said, I never thought Halo was broken. Halo 5 wasn't a bad game. I thought the story was lame as hell, and you can have a good game and a bad story. It happens all the time. So I'm not even worried about that. And I can't even remember. I want to say I played the multiplayer for Halo 5, but I really, so long ago, I don't remember. And so many games I've played since then. So I don't think Halo needs saved per se, but it needs a shot in the arm, because what used to be a system seller and kind of the gold standard of console first-person shooters, you've got to wonder, it's like, what can we do? And I was just thinking, like, Bungie was bought by Sony, before that Activision. How many of those Bungie devs that are still like with Bungie who worked on Halo, and how many have left to do other things, been laid off? Because I know there was big layoffs at Sony during the year or earlier in the year, and there were probably layoffs when they were at Activision too. So if I'm Halo Studios, if I'm Microsoft, if I'm Xbox, I am reaching out to those people who worked on the original 3 Halo games. I'm bringing them on board to Halo Studios. I mean, I know part of the reason why Bungie left Xbox was they didn't want to get stuck working on Halo games for the rest of their life. They went, oh man, sorry for the yawns. I don't normally do this during the podcast. I'm sorry. Part of the reason why Bungie left Xbox is they didn't want to be stuck doing Halo games for the rest of their life. They wanted to do more. They wanted to do Destiny. Apparently they wanted to do Marathon again. Took them a while to get to that, but they just wanted to do something more with their studio. So I'm sure there's devs out there who worked for Bungie who need work and would definitely jump at the opportunity to work on Halo again, because definitely steady work. You're working with the Unreal Engine, so you got something to work from there. You're not starting from scratch. So I just think it would behoove Halo Studios to reach out to any of those former Bungie devs. And again, I don't know if anybody who worked on Halo still works for Bungie or not, but if you were a former Bungie developer and you worked on the Halo series, I would definitely be reaching out if I was Halo Studios and just saying, hey, you want to come work for us? Here's a nice little pay bonus, because we're a $1 billion company in Microsoft, and we want to make the best Halo game anyone's ever seen. So you do that, and I think, and especially like if you announce, like, your Halo Studios, and you announce, hey, we got X, Y, and Z from Bungie Studios to work on the Halo game. They were heavily involved in Halo 1 through 3 and Halo Reach, or OST. I don't know. I think Reach was also Bungie. Reach and ODST, or maybe Reach was 343 Studios. I don't remember. But they worked on the Bungie Halo games, and I think that would create a buzz. I think that would get a lot of people, especially old school Halo fans, really excited for that. Like, oh my God, they're getting the band back together, blah, 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 blah. And we've got instant, like, just cred right there. And then people are like, yeah, Halo's back using the new engine. Master Chief looks good. And, I mean, Microsoft just needs some good press at this point. I mean, they just need someone to get excited over their products. I mean, I'm just trying to think. Indiana Jones, everyone's excited for, but that's a timed exclusive now, which is from Microsoft Studios. I know Bethesda and stuff is making it, but yeah, it's just kind of like you got to get excited for something if you're an Xbox fan. And I'll admit, like, I don't do the console war thing. My preferred console is Nintendo. I mean, I'm wearing a shirt. I'm the Ninten-Dad. That's part of the reason why is because two of my all-time favorite games are the Mario series and Zelda series. So I can only get them from Nintendo, obviously. So that's kind of my go-to. And then I don't really have, like, a PlayStation exclusive game that's like my go-to that I have to play. I do enjoy the new God of War series where he's doing the Odin and the Norse mythology. I was never really a big fan of the original God of War series. I liked it as an idea, but it was a lot of just like button mashing, and it was a fine game. I'm not going to shit on it and say it was bad or anything like that, but it didn't hook me. I thought the story was kind of cool, but the gameplay just didn't hook me. The modern ones I really love. But that would probably be the only PlayStation exclusive that I get excited for. I do really like Insomniac's Spider-Man games. Those are pretty good. Oh, you know what? Ghost of Tsushima. I love Ghost of Tsushima. Though Ghost of Yotai, because it's not Jin anymore, I'm not as excited for it. Like, if it was Jin going to a different prefecture in Japan, I'd be more excited for that. But this is taking place like 300 years later, things like that. So I'm less excited for it. So yeah, there's not an exclusive for Sony that I get super, super excited for. Like, even with Ghost of Yotai coming out, and then we've got the Wolverine game from Insomniac coming at some point, I've contemplated getting rid of my PS5 only because I'm switching to PC gaming at some point. I know I'm going to start with the ROG Ally, ROG Ally. I don't know. I heard people say ROG Ally, and then I've heard people call it the ROG Ally. Anyways, the handheld by Asus. I'm going to start with that. I'm going to get the C1 Extreme, and I'm going to play a bunch of games on that. I'm going to start on that, and then, like I said, I'm not in on the next console generation. I'm getting the Switch 2, but the odds of me getting a PS6 and whatever Xbox calls their next generation of console, kind of out on. So, but yeah, there's no like system seller anymore for PlayStation for me, especially because Square has already said, yeah, we're not doing this whole PlayStation exclusive crap anymore. We are losing too much money on that. And so it's kind of like those, like the Final Fantasy games, kind of few games keep me buying a PlayStation. So my switch to PC, so it's kind of like Insomniac brought the Spider-Man 1 to PC. I don't know if 2's out on PC yet or not. Ghost of Tsushima came to PC. Final Fantasy 16 just came to PC. I think the 7 remakes come to PC. So it's one of those things, like all these PlayStation exclusive games I can buy on the PC. And if I wait a little bit after the PC release, I'll probably get them dirt cheap. And then Xbox, I'll still keep Game Pass, because then I'll get the PC stuff, day one through Game Pass. So, but yeah, there's no real system seller there for PlayStation for me anymore. And Xbox used to be Gears of War, the Halo series. The last two Gears 4 was pretty fun. Gears 5 was kind of lame. The whole open world thing, I don't think really worked well for a Gears game. It wasn't a bad game, mind you, but it did not feel like Gears of War to me. It just really didn't, and I think that's why they're going to E-Day for the next Gears and didn't do Gear 6, because they're just kind of like, yeah, we're not sure where we're going with this story, and the fans didn't respond to it, so let's get back Marcus and Dom. That will make the fans happy. And I really want a game set in the Pendulum Wars. I want to see the Pendulum Wars before E-Day, so maybe we get E-Day, we'll get a Pendulum Wars game. I wonder if the E-Day games are going to be a trilogy or it's just going to be a one-off. That'll be... Give me yawns. That'll be interesting to see. So, yeah, so there's that. So it's just like, I think if Halo hired some former Bungie devs, Halo Studios hired some more Bungie devs, I think that would go a long way into getting the fan base excited again, and probably going a long way to making a better game. Like, these people who really understand Halo, I think movie studios and game studios sometimes, maybe even comic books. I haven't read a comic book in probably 20 years. Well, I shouldn't say I haven't read a comic book in 20 years. I've got some of my old trades, and I'll pick up some trades from back in the day of stories that I didn't get to read and wanted to read. But I haven't read like a monthly series in, I shouldn't say 20 years. Let's say 12 years. I want to say it was like 2012 was when I was last buying comic books, and I didn't get that many. I only got a few, but yeah, it's been at least a decade since I last like bought modern comics. So, I mean, they might be doing the same thing, but I think part of the problem with any entertainment these days are they're just hiring people to work on these legacy products. It's one thing when you have a new idea, a new show, a new movie, a new game, and you just hire anybody to work on it. I mean, that's fine, because you got to get ideas from someplace. But when you have like a legacy property, like a Star Wars, like a Halo, if we're talking video games, or Gears of War, I think you really need to hire people who are excited about the brand also, who have a loyalty to the brand, have an affinity to the brand, and want to try to tell the best story they possibly can. Like, for instance, with Star Wars, I think the smartest thing Lucasfilms could have done would have been hire like Timothy Zahn as their like stories are, as the guy to plot everything out. You can have, your Dave Filoni's, your Jon Favreau's and stuff. Who directed Force Awakens and the last one? I can't think of it. J.J. Abrams. You can have them like produce and direct, but you need somebody who really gets and understands Star Wars. And I'm sorry, Clone Wars nerds, Dave Filoni's not that guy. Dave Filoni is a guy who likes, or at least understands, Star Wars, but he cares about his characters. He cares about Ahsoka and the Rebels. He doesn't give a shit about Luke and Vader and the legacy characters. He cares about the characters he created, and that's what he used the Clone Wars for, and that's what he kind of used Jon Favreau and the Mandalorian for, to sneak Ahsoka and his other characters into movies and shows and things like that. Sorry, that's my Dave Filoni rant. I don't think he's very good. But Timothy Zahn, like, if you read the Heir to the Empire Thrawn, the original Thrawn trilogy series, and the Thrawn Ascending series, that's the only good thing to come out of Disney Star Wars is the Timothy Zahn Thrawn books. But if you got like a guy like Timothy Zahn to plot out your universe, and you can't see my hands, I did this when I said plot out, plot out your universe to make a cohesive story, especially with that first trilogy. I think Disney Star Wars would be way better off. But no, they just have people who maybe like Star Wars but don't understand Star Wars, just throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks. And really, the only good things we really got, again, I haven't seen it yet, but the Andor series people love, so I will take the majority's word for that. The Mandalorian was good. It exists in a Star Wars universe, at least it did until they decided to connect it to everything else. But it existed in the Star Wars universe, nothing to do with Star Wars. That was great. It was a Western in the Star Wars universe. Loved season 1 of Mando. Season 2 was pretty good, but season 1 was great. I really wish what they would have done with the show is gotten rid of Grogu, and then continued with Mando being a bounty hunter and just adventures doing bounty hunter stuff. Like Monster of the Week, it's just an old throwback to 70s TV shows, like detective shows, bounty hunter shows, Night Stalker, things like that, just monster of the week shit. And God, that would have been great. But no, they dropped the ball massively there. But yeah, I'm getting a little off track, sorry. But yeah, just getting people who really understand the universes of these legacy properties, Star Wars, Marvel, Gears of War, Halo, and just people who really care about it and care about the lore like the fans do, you would just have better product. But they're just hiring these directors because they did a good directing job, and they let them like tweak and write the script, but they don't really understand Star Wars, they don't understand Marvel, they don't understand these legacy properties they're coming into, and they're just putting their own shit in there, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work for canon. It doesn't work for how characters would act. And so it's bad. And it just comes off as bad, and it comes off as lame. And so, I mean, that's what these studios, you're investing millions of dollars into these properties when you produce them and make them. So invest it in the right people to make it. Don't invest it in like cheap young directors or cheap young writers because you want to save a buck there. Don't save a buck there, because a good story, like, you need to hire writers who understand it and write good stories, and then you get a damn good director to direct it. And if the director has good ideas to add to the story, sure. But don't give, like, when directors have this carte blanche to rewrite scripts or bring in their own writers to rewrite stories, sometimes it works out, and other times you get X3 The Last Stand. So that's a good way to turn chicken salad into chicken shit sometimes, is a director brings his own writing team on to rewrite a movie that didn't need rewriting. It's just because he didn't understand it. You don't have to understand it. Just shoot what's on the page, kind of thing. So now that's enough with my rant of people screwing up legacy properties. But it leads in to something that I want to talk about, and I'm not sure how long this is going to go. But I think there's a problem with AAA gaming these days, and I can't remember what I was watching. I want to say it was Gamer Ranks, could have been Scott the Woz, could have been 4 a.m. Laundry, but someone was talking about, could have been all three, because they could have all talked about something similar at some point in their various content. But it was on the other day while I was dying, while I was sick, and I was just kind of had it on. I just had a lot. I was playing a lot of, it could have been, no, it wasn't Did You Know Gaming, because they don't talk in depth like that. But I had a bunch of YouTube stuff just running on the TV as I was in and out of NyQuil comas, just trying to get through the day, just an ungodly amount of uncomfort. But someone was talking about Sony. I want to say it was Scott the Woz. Scott the Woz or Gamer Ranks. That's what I'm going to narrow it down to. I was just talking about Sony back in the day and just how they were just, I know this, I said this was a bad thing, but it was a good thing for Sony to do it because there was no legacy properties at the time. They were just throwing shit at the wall to see what stuck. So, like, we had 989 Studios making these sports games for Sony with maybe some of the best commercials ever. Like, I remember there was this, like, Marshall Falk one where they're trying to get him to do, like, a fumble animation. He's like, I don't fumble. And then they threw a baby doll at him when he was holding the football, and he didn't even drop the ball. He just watched it fall. Just 989 Studios had some of the best commercials in the 90s for stuff. But, like, Sony Studios was doing all kinds of different stuff. And I know they had, like, Naughty Dog, Insomniac. What are some of the other studios that work for them? Those are the ones that sticking out on the top of my head. I can't remember who did God of War, but that was PS2 days. But yeah, we had like Jak and Daxter, we had Spyro, we had Ratchet and Clank, Crash Bandicoot, even though I shat all over that series when I finally played it and Josh hasn't played. And I stand by that. But, you know, we had a bunch of different things from them. And I remember there was this one like Robot Rabbit 3D game. I can't remember what it was called. But we had a bunch of different games coming from different studios. And like Naughty Dog, you know, they're known for The Last of Us now, but they made Jak and Daxter, they made Uncharted. They don't make those games anymore. They just make The Last of Us. I think the studio in charge of God of War is like Sony Santa Monica. They just make God of War. Activision, it feels like for the most part, most of their developers just make Call of Duty. And like Epic, it just feels like they just make Fortnite. 343 Studios, the reason why they were called 343 Studios, they were going to make more, but they just make Halo. And it's like Insomniac now, they just make Spider-Man games, which they're making Wolverine game, but that's like a spin-off of the Spider-Man game. And so that's kind of the problem with AAA studios these days. Like the Coalition, they just make Gears of War games. It's you have a lot of these studios, and they just make one game, and they take like 5 or 6 years to make this one game. They invest millions and millions of dollars in that game. And so if that game isn't like a 10 million seller, it's a failure. Where I remember it was considered like success if 1 million games were sold for something. Sometimes not even that many. But you just have these studios where they just focus and they make one game. So they invest everything into that one franchise. And if you have one bad game in that franchise, it goes away. Like Insomniac, I'm just looking at kind of my list here. Insomniac, they're known for Spider now, but they made Ratchet and Clank. They made the Resistance games. They did Spyro and Crash. I know they don't own the rights to Spyro and Crash anymore. That's now owned by Activision, which both those things have been back and forth. Like they were owned by Universal and stuff for a bit, but there's an interesting video about them done by, I think Did You Know Gaming did a good thing about like Spyro and Crash Bandicoot and their licensings and rights and things like that. But yeah, so Insomniac did all that, and they, oh man, what's it called? They had that Xbox exclusive that came out with the Xbox One, which was a fun game. Oh, I can't think of it right now. But yeah, they used to do a bunch of different stuff. Now they just do Spider-Man games. And that's kind of the problem with AAA gaming is a lot of these studios kind of just do one game. Like the publisher will have a bunch of things under their banner, but they'll relegate studios to just one thing. Like I got Tony Hawk 3 in the background, which we could have got a remake on. It's not Vivendi. Vicarious Visions, who did the Tony Hawk remake. They were doing a bunch of stuff for Activision, and they did the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake, and that was great. And I was hoping to get 3 and 4 remake, but they got pushed over to doing work on Destiny for Activision. There's like, you're going to work on the guns for Destiny and things like that, and then like Raven Studios and some other studios within Activision, you're just going to work on Call of Duty stuff because we need a Call of Duty every year, so you're going to work on this, and this. So we even get like studios who don't want to do one game and one game only get kind of pushed to working on shit that like just busy work for games that the publisher deems we need this done. And there's less risk these days with games. It's like doing the Call of Duty beta. I mean, there's new things to Call of Duty, and I played it. It was slightly different, but it was still Call of Duty. It was still the same. And it's just kind of, Madden's another perfect example for EA. I don't even remember what studio makes Madden anymore. It used to be I don't know, they had a hammerhead shark logo. I can't remember what they're called. They might be called something else now. Who knows? Studios will change their name to fit the one game they work on. But it's just kind of like, it's the one studio that does this one thing. And they have to come out every year, so it's just kind of the same game every year. Just slight tweaks, like there's a roster change and some little added feature to the game. Most of the time that no one ever uses anyways. Like once every like decade, we get like this big new feature, like the juke stick and the truck stick for Madden. That's like the last innovation in Madden, other than like, better graphics and faster gameplay because the technology's gotten better. But yeah, like the hit stick and the juke stick were the last big innovations for Madden, and that came out, I think, the GameCube, PlayStation 2, Xbox era. So yeah, Madden's really been innovating in games. But it's just those things. It's like they take, and then you have like 343 Studios making Halo games, and there wasn't really a big jump between Infinite and Halo 5 as far as any innovations, and that was like a couple years apart. I'm trying to think. Like, yeah, like a lot of these games, like they'll come out every year and they don't innovate anything. It's just the same game every year with a slight tweak, and then you'll have games that come out all the time or take forever to come out, and it's just kind of like the same game as the previous one, just maybe a different story. So it's just, that's the problem with AAA gaming, is these studios just focus on like one game and there's no risk taken anymore. And so like you gotta throw it out there to CG Project Red, going from The Witcher to Cyberpunk, completely different game. I don't know if the engine changed at all because we have a third person like D&D style game going to a first person shooter RPG. That's got to be a different engine, doesn't it? But yeah, I mean, CG Project Red took a big leap and risk there, and it kind of showed with the time it took to make that game, and with that, change in style and everything like that, there was some hiccups at the start, but CG Project Red stayed with Cyberpunk, and it's a great game. I thought it was a great game when it came out. I never came across any of these game breaking glitches. I know, and luckily it happened right after I had saved. I know I had one glitch that kind of crashed my game, but that was one time, and that was hours and hours into the game, but it didn't corrupt anything. So it's just kind of one of those weird things that these AAA studios just do not take risks anymore, and they just kind of give us these vanilla games. I'm just looking over at my game library just to get some ideas. I'm looking at Like a Dragon. Those are fun games though. Like, Sega comes out and they totally changed it. Like, they were a brawler all the way up to the 7th game, and then boom, it's an RPG. Not only is it an RPG, but it's kind of a fantasy RPG in the modern world, which was crazy but awesome at the same time. They took a risk and it paid off, and now that series is bigger than it ever was. Like, it was always pretty big in Japan, but then it got a cult following. It only had a cult following in America, but then Yakuza Like a Dragon, which was Yakuza 7, comes out, and God, did it kill over here. And it got a quick sequel that was just as fun, but they built upon it, everything like that. So, and that game studio, I always forget the name. It's like Ryo Guy. I wish I could see the label better from here. I always forget the whole name of the studio. But they do more than just Like a Dragon games. I mean, everything they do, I think, is in the Like a Dragon universe. Like The Man Without a Name, or The Man Who Lost His Name. I'm losing the title there. And then the Judgment games. I think it's all in the same universe, but it's not the same game. So they do different things, which is pretty cool. Like, I do kind of like that they expand the universe where they kind of interweave, but they don't have a direct bearing on each other. But there are some callbacks. I mean, that's cool. But I'm looking over at my PlayStation collection, and it's like, I got Spider-Man, I got Final Fantasy. No, Final Fantasy does. Square Enix will do some different stuff for their Final Fantasy games. I'll give them that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest problem with AAA games these days, is you have these studios that just work on one game. And I just caught a glimpse of my Resident Evil 4 over there. Capcom's killing it though. Capcom is not only giving us some badass remakes and like doing the remakes right, because I've always loved the Resident Evil games, but I hate tank controls. So going back to playing older Resident Evil games, like, I would play through one, and it'd be probably one playthrough, because it's just like, I want to see the story. I love the creepy atmosphere, especially because I was a teen then. I was like, I love this creepy atmosphere, and I just want to be in that world because it creeps me out, but in a fun way. And so I'd play them, but really hate the controls. So these remakes are like a godsend, because you don't have the tank controls anymore. You're playing, you're having. But yeah, just these AAA studios, I think they're just so worried about risk. And like I was saying about Capcom, is not only did they do the remakes like the Final Fantasy games, making them, more quality of life playing, but then they had Exoprimal come out, which was a dinosaur PvE, PvP kind of game, which was really cool. What else did they do? I'm trying to think. They had some other cool games come out. But yeah, Capcom is just the Street Fighter games, constantly improving on the fighter, re-releasing Marvel vs. Capcom, which everybody and their brother wanted them to do. So yeah, so some AAA studios are killing it, but others are just kind of being left behind, kind of thing like that, investing so much and giving us so little. Like Epic, I guess if you're a Fortnite player, you get a lot out of that, but I mean, I remember when Epic gave us Unreal Tournament. Epic's the one who started Gears of War, that Bulletstorm game that Cliffy B did after Gears of War. So I mean, Epic used to do a ton, but now they have their launcher and they do Fortnite. So I don't even know. I don't even know if Epic makes any other games other than Fortnite anymore. But I mean, it makes them a ton of money, so I'm not gonna hate on Epic for doing that. But they used to have some really cool, innovative shooters like that. We'd get whenever there was a new for you younger gamers out there. The Unreal Engine was named after their land shooter, their first-person shooter, Unreal Tournament. So every time we got a new Unreal Engine, we got a new Unreal game. I think the Unreal Engine 3 might have been the last one. Maybe did we get an Unreal Tournament 4? We might have gotten a 4. We did not get one with 5 though, because they're doing Fortnite. But it would be great if Epic like brought back Unreal Tournament, because that was such a fun like arena shooter, LAN party. Like, oh, we'd have some fun LAN parties with Unreal Tournament. I want to say Unreal Tournament 2 is where I got introduced to it, and we would we had so much fun with that one. But yeah, so I mean, just AAA gaming in general, I think the studios, much like I've kind of said with movie studios, maybe lower the budgets a little bit and broaden the games. Like, instead of spending like several million on one game, maybe sparse that money out, make some a little bit smaller games every once in a while, and take a few risks. Just just take a couple risks here and there with games, like come up with a new IP, and when you don't spend millions and millions of dollars on a single game, you can kind of take those risks, because if that fails, well, you've got this other game coming that will make up for that money, kind of thing. So don't pull like an EA and pull like a developer who's known for one thing and make them make a games for service game, and spend millions of dollars on that and have it blow up in your face. I think that's kind of like the wrong lesson that game companies have taken from this last generation, is going for that games of service money and taking studios who don't make games for service games, and having them do it and giving them millions and millions of dollars to do it, and then it fails, and you're like, well, why did this fail? Well, it's like, well, we don't make those games. That's not what we make. We make these kind of games. So, I mean, let the studios stay in their wheelhouses, though. I don't want them just making one game. They can make one kind of game, but a couple different titles over that kind of game, and tweak the kind of game they do. But, investing millions and millions of dollars on a new IP is not necessarily the way to go. Maybe start with a small budget, small game, because we can, AAA studios, you can work back into that 3 to 8 hour length gameplay and just have a smaller scale, but still give us the graphics and story. And so you spend less money, and we get a cool IP, and then maybe the sequel, because it's built a following, you can make a grander game, spend more money on it, kind of deal. Just kind of give us more variety. I don't want to play, like from the AAA games, man, I don't want to play just COD and Last of Us and Madden and Destiny and Halo. I want some new blood in there. Like, give us something new, or revive an old series and bring it back. Because this isn't movies where remakes and legacy sequels are bad. No. We got new technology for games, baby girl. We can take a game that's been dormant for a while and bring it back for the modern era, especially if it's got like that cult following. Capcom, I'm looking at you with Dino Crisis. I'm not going to stop beating that drum until I get Dino Crisis. Square Enix, Chrono Trigger. I don't even need a remaster or anything like that. Just re-release the game on console. Okay? I just do it. I want to play it on my Switch. Okay? Please do that for me. Though it would be cool if we got a 2. I don't want like a 3D remake like you're doing with Final Fantasy. I don't want that. The most, if you're going to do a remake of Chrono Trigger, the most I want, because I think part of the charm of the character design is the 16-bit sprites of the Akira Toriyama artwork. I think that's part of the charm of the game. So at most, if you do a remake, Square, 2.5D, like you're doing with Dragon Quest. Okay? That's what we want. But yeah, I should shout out to Square, because I did say the Final Fantasy remake, Final Fantasy 16, but the Dragon Quest remakes, the Mana games, things like that, Square's doing their thing. They just got to get over that whole everything's coming to PlayStation and put it out on all the systems. I want to say, like, I guarantee you, this is going to be silly, I guarantee you a lot of JRPG fans have a Switch. Like, they would play those games on a Switch, because thing is, like, I think a lot of JRPG fans, especially classic JRPG, the turn-based 40-hour games, 40-plus hour games, they're probably like me. They're older, they're married, they have kids, they have a full-time job, and they don't have the time to sit in front of a console, in front of a TV, to play those games. But if they had a handheld, they can play on the train, they can play on their commute, they can play while the family's watching TV, and they're just there because it's a weird thing being a dad. Sometimes people just want you there. They don't even want to talk to you. Like, everyone else is, like, on their phone, reading a book, watching a movie. But the second you get up to go do something, like, where are you going, Dad? Nowhere, I guess. So I know a lot of husbands out there, they can relate to that. So a lot of those, like, Square JRPG games, man, put those on the Switch so we can play them in handheld mode while we're still with our family, or while we're commuting to work and doing all these other things. I think would go a long way. That's why the Switch is my go-to, because as much as I like being up here in my game room playing games on my TV, I don't get to do that as much. So I can take my Switch downstairs, be with the family. So like that's why I bought a PlayStation Portal. I just don't play it as much. Because the only two games I'm playing on my PlayStation right now are Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7. Sometimes I just got to be in the mood for those games, and I haven't been in those in a while. In fact, 16, I might have to restart 16. I haven't played that game in so long that I might forget where I'm at. So I've probably forgotten a lot of the controls too. So I got to get back on that. But this is where I'm going to wrap up the podcast for today, for this week maybe. I was hitting a stride with two of them. So we're gonna try to keep going 2 a week, but got some fun videos coming up. I think this is gonna air after my N64 case swap video. That's on the channel this week. I finally got to play Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom. Stir of Echoes, that's a movie. Echoes of Wisdom. Finally got to play that. Did about 2 hours. Put the gameplay up on the channel, so check that out. That came in today on Monday. And then I've got a fun little IRL game hunting with Bowie, so you can see what it's like trying to look for used video games with a toddler. Let me tell you, it's a lot of fun. So some fun stuff coming up on the channel. I'll probably have another podcast coming up. Also a preview. Reach down here. Got my Dreamcast case. I'm gonna recase one of my Dreamcasts. Really cool color. I'm not gonna tell you right now. You got to tune in to watch that. So thank you for hanging out. If you hung out this long, this is one of my longer podcasts. I'm gonna try to get them a little bit longer, talk a little bit more in depth about things. Just sometimes there's not a lot to talk about, and I don't want to bore you. But yeah, I thought we had some good conversations here about the Nintendo playtest. I'm really sad I didn't get in. What could make Halo great again? And of course, AAA games, just focusing on one game per studio, kind of thing like that. And we're just not getting the creative mess we used to get in the, I don't know what generation it is. I like to think the first generation, like the way I look at generations, first generation is the Atari, ColecoVisions, Magnavox, all that stuff. Second generation is Nintendo. Third generation SNES, Genesis. Fourth generation PS1, N64, Sega Saturn. Fifth generation, and so on. But I think I'm missing a generation there, because I think the sixth generation is the GameCube and stuff like that. So that'd make the N64 fifth generation. I don't know. But yeah, that N64 PlayStation generation, along with the GameCube, Dreamcast, PlayStation 2, Xbox era, a lot of fun experiments in video games. That's how we got Tony Hawk. Just experimenting, going nuts, being crazy. That's how we got that. So I wish we could get back to that in gaming, not spending so much per game, maybe cutting those budgets back a little bit so we can experiment a little, so it's not as big as loss if the game flops. But yeah, so again, I rambled at the end, but thank you for hanging out this long. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what you saw here. And as always, have a great rest of your day. Bye now. Take care.